The morning sun painted the sky in shades of soft gold and delicate pink, a picture-perfect backdrop for what was supposed to be the happiest day of her life. The bridal suite was filled with the scent of fresh roses, their petals carefully arranged in elegant bouquets, and the distant hum of guests arriving only added to the anticipation in the air. Dressed in an exquisite white gown, she stood before the full-length mirror, heart pounding with nervous excitement. The lace bodice clung to her frame perfectly, the intricate beading shimmering under the soft glow of the chandelier. Her veil cascaded down her back like a waterfall of silk, a symbol of the new chapter she was about to begin. Today, she would finally marry the man she loved. Her fingers trembled as she smoothed the delicate fabric of her dress, the memory of their love story playing in her mind like a cherished melody. Every stolen glance, every whispered promise, every moment that led them here, it had all been real. A soft knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. Her best friend, Emma, peeked in, eyes twinkling with excitement. "Are you ready?" She exhaled a shaky breath and nodded. More than ever. But as the moments ticked by, a strange unease settled in her chest. The ceremony was supposed to have started 15 minutes ago, yet there was no sign of him. Her heart beat faster as she glanced at the clock again. The murmurs outside the bridal suite grew louder. Emma exchanged a worried look with the wedding planner, who had just rushed in, her face pale and lips pressed into a thin line. "What's wrong?" she asked, the unease curling into something sharper, more painful. The silence stretched too long. Then, finally, the wedding planner took a deep breath and spoke the words that shattered her world. "He's not here." The words slammed into her, cold and brutal. "What do you mean he's not here?" "I mean he left. He's gone." The room tilted. A gasp tore from her throat as the weight of the words crushed her chest. Her vision blurred, the edges of her perfect day crumbling into nothingness. Her groom had abandoned her at the altar. Without a word. Without a reason. The whispers outside turned into a storm of voices. She could feel the pitying gazes, the judgment, the confusion of the guests waiting beyond those heavy church doors. She clenched her fists, forcing herself to stay upright even as her world collapsed. No. This wasn't happening. There had to be a reason. And she would find it. The weight of the silence pressed down on her, heavier than the wedding dress she wore. The world outside the bridal suite was moving, whispers, footsteps, hushed voices, but inside, everything had frozen. Emma placed a trembling hand on her shoulder. Maybe there's been a mistake. Maybe he... No, her voice was cold, detached, even as her heart pounded in her chest. He's not coming. The truth settled over her like ice. He had left. Not because he was late, not because of an accident. He had chosen to walk away. The door to the suite opened again, and her father stepped in, his usually composed face lined with worry. "Sweetheart, let's get you out of here." Numbly, she let him guide her through a side exit, away from the curious stares and murmurs of the guests. Emma and her mother followed closely behind, silent in their grief for her. The ride home was a blur. The wedding decorations, the perfectly arranged flowers, the carefully planned day, it all meant nothing now. She sat in her bedroom, still in her wedding dress, staring at the engagement ring on her finger. The same ring he had placed there with promises of forever. And then, hours later, came the final blow. Emma burst into the room, phone in hand, her face pale. "You need to see this." She hesitated before taking the phone, but the moment her eyes landed on the screen, her breath caught in her throat. A marriage certificate. Dated today. His name, her groom's name, was written on it. And beside it, another woman's. He hadn't just left her. He had married someone else the same day. The phone slipped from her fingers, hitting the floor with a dull thud. A sharp pain bloomed in her chest, raw and unbearable. This wasn't just abandonment. This was betrayal. Her fists clenched as she took a shaky breath. She had spent the entire day drowning in heartbreak, searching for reasons, blaming herself. But now? Now she wanted answers, and she would get them. The night was thick with silence, But inside her, a storm raged. She sat motionless on her bed, still in her wedding dress, the fabric now wrinkled and lifeless. The weight of the discovery pressed on her chest like an immovable force. Her groom, no, the man who had sworn to love her, had married someone else. The same day, he had abandoned her at the altar. Beneath the numbing pain, anger smoldered. Her fingers trembled as she reached for Emma's phone again, her eyes scanning over the marriage certificate once more, as if rereading it would change the truth. But there it was, his name, bold and unforgiving. And beside it, the name of a woman she had never heard of. "Who is she?" she whispered, voice hoarse. Emma, who had been sitting quietly beside her, exhaled. "I don't know, but I'll find out." She nodded, barely hearing her best friend's words. She was too consumed by the betrayal, the sheer audacity of it all. The way he had left her, humiliated her, while another woman stood in the place that should have been hers.
But why?
The question gnawed at her, refusing to let her sink into despair. If he had simply fallen out of love, if he had wanted someone else, why not tell her? Why disappear like a coward? Why marry the other woman so quickly? There was more to this, and she would get her answers. The next morning, the house was eerily quiet. Her parents had barely spoken, as if afraid to push her too hard. She appreciated their silence. She didn't have the patience for gentle words or pitying glances. She sat at the kitchen table, staring blankly at a cup of untouched coffee. The events of the past day looped in her mind like a cruel nightmare. Then her phone buzzed. Emma's name flashed across the screen. She snatched it up. "Tell me you have something." "I do." Emma's voice was urgent. "Meet me at the cafe near my office. You're going to want to hear this in person." The cafe was busy, but the noise barely registered as she slid into the seat across from Emma. Her best friend wasted no time, sliding a printed document across the table. "Her name is Olivia Carter.
She's not just some random woman.
She comes from a well-known business family. And a look at this." She scanned the papers with sharp eyes, her pulse spiking as she reached the last line. "They signed a prenuptial agreement," she murmured. "Exactly." Emma leaned in. "And look at the terms. If they divorce, she gets a huge settlement. That means this wasn't some whirlwind romance or reckless decision. This marriage was planned."
Planned.
Her stomach twisted. "What the hell is going on?" she whispered. Emma sighed. "That's what we need to find out. But there's more." Her fingers tightened around the papers.
What?
Emma hesitated, then pulled out her phone, tapping a few times before turning the screen toward her. A grainy photograph appeared. It was taken last night, hours after he had abandoned her. Her former fiancé was in the picture. He looked tense, standing near a black car, his face partially hidden in the shadows. But the expression she could see wasn't that of a man celebrating his wedding night. It was a man on edge. And he wasn't alone. Another man stood across from him, half turned away from the camera. But even with the low quality, she could make out the presence of something dangerous in his posture. "This was taken outside Olivia's family estate," Emma said in a hushed tone. "Something isn't right, and I think—" "I need to see him," she interrupted. Emma's brows shot up. "Are you serious?" "I won't get answers sitting here, Emma. I need to find him. I need to look him in the eye and hear it from him."
Emma hesitated, then sighed.
"Then we do this smartly. I'll help you find out where he is." She nodded, determination settling in her bones. No more waiting. No more wondering. She was done being the abandoned bride. It was time to face the man who had betrayed her. Her hands gripped the steering wheel tightly as she sat outside his apartment building, her pulse hammering in her ears. The city was alive around her, cars rushing past, neon lights flickering in the darkness, but inside the car, all she could hear was the steady, angry drum of her heartbeat. She had spent the last 24 hours drowning in humiliation, betrayal, and unanswered questions. But not anymore. Tonight, she would demand the truth. Emma had been reluctant at first, but after some digging, she had confirmed that he had returned to his apartment late last night. Not his new wife's estate. His apartment. What kind of man got married and then went home alone? The thought only fueled the storm inside her. She stepped out of the car, each step purposeful as she approached the building. The doorman barely glanced at her before letting her through. She had been here before, many times. Before yesterday, this had been the place where she had spent countless evenings, laughing, planning, dreaming. Now it felt foreign. The elevator ride was suffocating, the walls pressing in on her as she prepared for what was to come. Finally, she reached his floor. She didn't hesitate. She raised her fist and knocked. Silence. Her jaw clenched. Coward. She knocked again, harder this time. I know you're in there. Open the door. More silence. Then, just as she was about to bang again, the lock clicked. The door opened a fraction, revealing a pair of familiar but exhausted eyes. Her breath caught. For the past 24 hours, she had imagined this moment 100 different ways. She had expected guilt, anger, indifference, anything but this. Because the man standing in front of her didn't look victorious. He looked wrecked. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, his shirt wrinkled, as if he hadn't slept. He was unshaven, his expression unreadable. But there was something else, something raw lurking behind his gaze. For a second, just a second, doubt crept into her mind. But then the pain hit again, sharp and fresh. She shoved the door open and stormed inside. Tell me why, she demanded, her voice shaking with fury. Tell me why you left me at the altar only to marry someone else the same day. He didn't answer. Her hands clenched into fists. Say something. His Adam's apple bobbed as he swallowed. His fingers curled at his sides as if he were holding something back. Then, finally, his lips parted. I left to protect you. The words were quiet but devastating. She stared at him, disbelief crashing into her. Protect me? She let out a bitter laugh. That's the excuse you're going with? You humiliated me in front of everyone. You destroyed everything we had, and now you're telling me it was for my own good. He exhaled sharply, running a hand through his disheveled hair. I didn't want to leave you. Then why did you? Silence stretched between them, thick with tension. And then, in a voice so low she almost didn't hear it, he said, If I stayed, you'd be dead. Her body went rigid. For a moment, the room tilted, her mind struggling to process what he had just said. She searched his face for any sign that he was lying, that this was some cruel attempt at manipulation. But there was only raw, unfiltered emotion in his eyes.
Fear.
Desperation. Regret. Her anger faltered, replaced by something colder. What are you talking about? She whispered. He hesitated. You need to leave. Now. But she didn't move. She wasn't leaving. Not without answers. You owe me the truth, she said, voice steadier now. The real truth. A muscle in his jaw tightened. He turned away, raking a hand through his hair again, as if fighting an internal battle. Then, finally, he spoke. And when he did, the world she thought she knew shattered completely. His words came slowly, each syllable laced with something heavy and unspoken. They threatened your life, he said at last. If I married you, they were going to kill you. She flinched as if he had struck her. A cold chill seeped into her bones, but she forced herself to stay upright, to process what he had just said. Who? Her voice was barely a whisper. He shook his head, his expression guarded. You don't need to know. Just understand that I didn't have a choice. A sharp, humorless laugh escaped her lips. You didn't have a choice? That's the best you can come up with. Her voice rose. You didn't think to tell me? To warn me? You just disappeared and married someone else. His eyes darkened. I married her to keep you safe. Something inside her snapped. Her hands trembled as she shoved him, hard. You don't get to say that. He barely moved from the force of her push, but his expression remained pained. You let me stand there like a fool, waiting for you, she spat, her voice breaking. You let me be humiliated in front of everyone. And now you think you can come back and tell me this like it's supposed to make it all okay? His jaw clenched, but he didn't argue. Because he knew she was right. She took a shaky breath, trying to hold herself together. Who are they? She demanded. Who threatened me? His silence was answer enough. Her nails dug into her palms.
Fine, she said bitterly.
Then I'll find out myself. She turned to leave, but before she could take another step, his hand wrapped around her wrist. Don't, he said quietly. She yanked free. You lost the right to tell me what to do the moment you walked away. For the first time, a flicker of frustration crossed his face. You don't understand, damn it. These people, if they find out you're digging into this, they won't hesitate. She stared at him, searching his face. He looked haunted, like a man carrying too many secrets. And maybe that's what scared her the most. Because she had known him. She had loved him. But the man standing in front of her now, he was a stranger. You don't get to make decisions for me anymore, she said, her voice quieter now but firm. I deserve to know the truth. And if you won't tell me, I'll find it myself. His expression hardened. You're going to get yourself killed. She lifted her chin. That's my risk to take. For a moment, they just stood there, the air between them thick with things unsaid. Then he exhaled, his shoulders sagging as if in defeat. If you really want the truth, I'll give it to you. She didn't let herself breathe. But after I tell you, you'll have to decide if you really want to keep looking for answers, he warned. Because once you do, there's no going back. Her fingers curled into fists. She had already lost everything. There was no fear left in her. Tell me. He stared at her for a long moment, as if measuring how much she could handle. Then, with a heavy sigh, he stepped aside. Come in. Every instinct told her not to, but she pushed forward anyway. The door clicked shut behind her, enclosing them in a space that felt suffocating with unspoken words. The apartment was dimly lit, papers scattered across the coffee table, a whiskey glass half full on the counter. It didn't look like the home of a newlywed man. She folded her arms. Start talking. He ran a hand over his face, exhaustion evident in every movement. A few weeks before the wedding, I was approached by someone. A man I'd never seen before, but he knew everything about me. About you. A shiver ran down her spine. He gave me a warning. If I married you, you would be dead within 24 hours. Her breath caught, but she refused to react. And you just believed him? His jaw clenched. It wasn't just words, Elena.
His voice was rough now.
The next morning, I found a package at my office. It had pictures of you, of us. Someone had been watching, tracking every move we made. And inside the package was something else. He paused, his throat working as if the memory itself was difficult to voice. What? She pressed. A bullet with your name engraved on it. A chill slithered down her spine. For a brief moment, fear clawed at her throat, but she forced herself to swallow it down. Why would someone want me dead? She asked, her voice quieter now. He hesitated. Because of me, he finally admitted. She frowned. What do you mean? He looked away, running a hand through his hair. I did something. Years ago. I thought I left it behind, but it came back. And this time, they were using you as leverage. Something cold settled in her stomach. She had loved him, trusted him. But now, as she looked at him, truly looked, she realized there were entire pieces of his life that she had never known. What did you do? She whispered. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he walked toward the window, staring out as if searching for something beyond the glass. Then, in a low voice, he said, I used to work for them. The room tilted. Her fingers dug into her palms. Work for who? He turned back to face her, his expression haunted. A powerful group. The kind of people you don't cross. His voice darkened. And I crossed them. She took a shaky breath. You said you left. I did. His lips twisted. But no one truly leaves. I thought I was free. I thought they'd let me go. But when they found out I was getting married, they saw an opportunity. A way to remind me that I'll never be free. A realization hit her like a freight train. That's why you married her. The words felt foreign on her tongue. Because they forced you to. His silence was confirmation enough. Elena staggered back, gripping the edge of the couch for support. The betrayal still burned, but now, tangled within it, was something else. Something that scared her even more.
Pity.
Because for the first time since that awful day at the altar, she saw it. The chains wrapped around him. He hadn't left her because he didn't love her. He had left because he thought he had no other choice. But that didn't change what he had done. Her voice was hollow when she spoke. You should have told me. His eyes darkened. And then what? Let you live in fear? Let them come for you anyway. He shook his head.
No.
I did the only thing I could to keep you safe. Her nails bit into her palm. And what now? He hesitated. Now you need to walk away. She let out a bitter laugh. That's not going to happen. Elena. No, she straightened, a new fire in her gaze. I'm not some fragile woman who needs to be protected from the truth. If my life was at risk, I deserve to know. And if you think I'm just going to sit back and accept this, then you never really knew me at all. His hands curled into fists. You don't understand what you're saying. Then make me understand. Their eyes locked, and for a moment, the tension between them felt like a razor's edge. Then, slowly, reluctantly, he exhaled. If you really want the truth, he said, then we have to go somewhere else. She stiffened. Where? He picked up his keys and met her gaze with something dark and final. To the one person who might be able to help us. The car ride was tense, filled with unspoken words and lingering resentment. Elena sat stiffly in the passenger seat, arms crossed, staring out at the dimly lit streets. The city passed in a blur, but her mind was racing. She should have been afraid. But she wasn't. Anger still burned deep inside her, but now it was mixed with something else, a need for answers. The man she had loved, the one who had shattered her heart, was not the man she had thought he was. He had secrets, a past tangled in darkness, and now she was being dragged into it. But she refused to be a bystander in her own story. Who are we going to see? She finally asked, breaking the silence. He tightened his grip on the steering wheel. Someone who knows the people I used to work for. That's not an answer. He let out a slow breath. His name is Adrian Locke. He used to be part of their inner circle before he went into hiding. If anyone can tell us what's happening, it's him. She frowned. Why would he help you? A humorless smile crossed his lips. Because he owes me. Something about the way he said it made her stomach twist. The drive continued in silence until they reached the outskirts of the city. The streets grew darker, quieter, the buildings more rundown. He pulled into a nearly deserted parking lot outside a nondescript warehouse. Elena hesitated. This doesn't look like the kind of place I'd expect an inner circle member to be. It's better if people think he's dead. A shiver ran through her. He turned to her, his expression unreadable. Stay close to me, and don't say anything unless I tell you to. Elena bristled. I can handle myself. His jaw tightened. This isn't about pride. These people are dangerous. If Adrian thinks you're a threat, he won't hesitate. A chill spread through her, but she masked it with defiance.
Fine.
Let's get this over with. They stepped out of the car, and he led her to a side entrance. He knocked, 3 sharp raps, then 2 softer ones. A long pause. Then, the door creaked open just enough for a single eye to peer through. Logan. Elena tensed. The door opened wider, revealing a man in his late 40s, dressed in a wrinkled dress shirt with the sleeves rolled up. He had dark eyes that missed nothing and a scar running down his jaw. I was wondering when you'd come crawling back, Adrian said with a smirk. Logan didn't react. We need to talk. Adrian leaned against the doorframe. Last time we talked, you put a bullet in my shoulder. Last time we talked, you were selling me out. Adrian chuckled. Fair point. He stepped back, waving them in. Come on then. Let's see what's worth risking your neck for. The warehouse was dimly lit, filled with scattered furniture and stacks of papers. A single desk sat in the middle, covered in maps, files, and a half-empty bottle of whiskey. Adrian sank into a chair and propped his feet up. So, what brings you here? His eyes flicked to Elena. And who's the pretty little thing? Elena stiffened, but Logan spoke before she could. She's not part of this. Adrian smirked. Clearly, she is, or she wouldn't be here. He leaned forward, suddenly serious. What do you want, Logan? Logan hesitated. Then, in a voice edged with something sharp, he said, they threatened her. Adrian's smirk vanished. Logan continued, I need to know who sent the warning and why they care so much. Adrian exhaled, rubbing his temples. Damn it, Logan. Tell me what you know. Adrian studied him, then glanced at Elena. You really don't know what you got yourself into, do you, sweetheart? Elena lifted her chin. I know enough. Adrian chuckled, shaking his head.
Brave.
Stupid, but brave. He reached for a file on the desk, flipping it open. The people you pissed off? They don't like loose ends. And you, darling, became one the moment Logan walked away. Elena's stomach tightened. Adrian looked back at Logan. They wanted to make an example out of her. Killing her on your wedding day? That would have sent a message. Logan's fists clenched. But now, Adrian leaned back, a slow smile creeping onto his face. They know you still care, which means they can still use her. A heavy silence settled over the room. Elena forced herself to stay calm, but her mind was spinning. She wasn't just some casualty in Logan's past. She was leverage. What do they want? Logan asked, his voice dangerously low. Adrian hesitated. Then, he reached into a drawer and tossed a small envelope onto the table. They want to trade. Logan picked up the envelope and opened it. His face darkened. Elena moved closer, looking over his shoulder. Inside was a photograph. A man she didn't recognize. On the back, scrawled in neat handwriting, was a single word. Deliver. Adrian's voice was quiet. They're giving you a chance to fix this, Logan. Elena's stomach twisted. What does that mean? Adrian looked at her. It means he has a choice. Hand over the guy in that picture, or they'll come for you again. A sick feeling crawled through her chest. Logan's grip on the photo tightened. And if I refuse? Adrian sighed. Then I hope you're better at running than you were last time. Elena looked between them, her mind racing. She had spent months hating him, wishing she could erase him from her life. But now, she was starting to realize something terrifying. She wasn't just caught in the middle of his past.
She was a part of it.
And if they wanted a war, she wasn't about to back down. Elena gripped the edges of the chair, trying to steady herself as the weight of Adrian's words sank in. A trade. Her life, exchanged for a man she didn't even know. She turned to Logan, searching his face for a reaction, but his expression was unreadable. His jaw was locked tight, his fingers gripping the photograph so hard she thought it might tear. She hated this. She hated the way the choices were being stripped from her, hated that she had no control over a situation that had begun on what was supposed to be the happiest day of her life. Adrian watched them both, his amusement barely hidden. I can see the wheels turning in your head, sweetheart, he said to her. You're wondering if he's really worth it, aren't you? Elena glared at him. You don't know anything about me. Adrian smirked. Oh, but I do. I know you're the woman he left behind, the one he tried to keep out of this world. And yet, here you are. He leaned forward. So tell me, is it love? Or just unfinished business? Logan stood so fast that the chair scraped loudly against the floor. Enough. Adrian held up his hands in mock surrender. Relax, lover boy. I'm just making conversation. Logan ignored him and turned to Elena. We're leaving. Adrian let out a dramatic sigh. No, thank you for the information. Logan didn't answer. He grabbed Elena's hand, pulling her toward the door. Elena yanked her arm free. Stop doing that. Logan turned, frowning. Doing what? Dragging me around like I'm some helpless woman who can't make her own choices, she snapped. You don't get to decide things for me anymore, Logan. For a second, something flickered in his eyes. Guilt, regret, maybe even something deeper. But it was gone too fast for her to tell. Adrian chuckled from behind them. She's got a point, you know. Logan shot him a glare. Stay out of this. Adrian only smirked. Just saying. You abandoned her once already. You sure you're ready to drag her back into your mess? Elena expected Logan to snap back, to argue, but he didn't. Instead, He just stared at Adrian, something dark in his expression. I never had a choice. Elena swallowed, the pain in those words cutting deeper than she expected. Adrian seemed to sense the shift in the room, his amusement dimming slightly. He sighed, standing up and running a hand through his hair. Look, Logan. I get it. You want out of this life, but the thing is, you were never really out. Logan said nothing. Adrian exhaled sharply. They're giving you a way to clean this up, to make it all go away. If you don't take it, they'll come after you, after her, and after anyone else who gets in their way. He paused. And this time, they won't just be sending warnings. The room fell silent. Elena could feel Logan's tension beside her, the way his body was coiled like a spring, ready to snap. She made a decision then. She wasn't going to let this happen without a fight. I want to know everything, she said firmly. Logan turned to her, eyes sharp. Elena. No, she cut him off. I'm done with the half-truths. I want to know why they want you dead, why they wanted to use me against you, and who the hell this man in the picture is. Adrian let out a low whistle. I like her. Logan clenched his jaw, but didn't argue. That told her enough. There were no easy answers. No clean way out of this. But if she was already in it, she wasn't going to stand on the sidelines. She was going to fight. For herself. For the truth. And, though she hated to admit it, maybe even for the man who had broken her heart. The drive back to Logan's apartment was silent. Elena sat in the passenger seat, her arms crossed, her mind buzzing with everything Adrian had said. The people Logan had crossed, the ones who had threatened her life, wanted him to complete one final job in exchange for their silence. A trade. A man's life for hers. She couldn't stomach it. The weight of the situation settled in her chest like a stone. She had been so focused on her own pain, on the betrayal and heartbreak of being abandoned, that she hadn't considered the possibility that Logan was fighting his own demons. Still, it didn't excuse what he had done. You should have told me, she finally said. Logan didn't take his eyes off the road. Told you what? Everything, she said sharply. That you were in danger. That I was in danger. That. Her voice wavered. That our wedding wasn't real. His grip on the steering wheel tightened. It was real. Elena let out a bitter laugh. Was it? Because I stood at that altar, waiting for you to show up, thinking we had forever. And you. She turned to face him, her voice shaking. You were already gone. Logan didn't respond right away. He kept driving, his face unreadable. But then, quietly, he said, If I had stayed, you'd be dead. Elena clenched her jaw. That doesn't make it better. I know, he admitted. For a moment, she almost thought he would say more. That he would explain, finally, why everything had happened the way it had. But he stayed silent, letting the tension hang between them. By the time they reached his apartment, Elena's patience had run out. The moment he unlocked the door, she pushed past him, stepping inside. Tell me everything, she demanded. Logan sighed, rubbing a hand over his face. Elena. No more excuses, she cut him off. No more protecting me. I deserve to know the truth. Logan hesitated. Then slowly he nodded. He walked to a cabinet near the kitchen and pulled out a small, locked box. From his pocket, he took out a key and opened it. Inside were stacks of papers, photographs, and what looked like old case files. He took out a single photo, the same one Adrian had given him. Elena stepped closer, staring at the man in the picture. He was older, maybe in his late 40s, with a sharp, calculating gaze. Who is he? She asked. Logan exhaled. His name is Victor Crane. He used to be one of the top men in the organization I worked for. Elena frowned. And now he's the one calling the shots. She swallowed hard. And they want you to kill him? Logan nodded. Elena's stomach twisted. And if you don't? Logan looked at her, his expression grim. Then they come after you. She took a shaky breath, stepping back. And what are you going to do? Logan didn't answer right away. He just stared at the photograph, his fingers tightening around it. Finally, he said, I don't know. It was the most honest thing he'd said all night. The past resurfaces. Elena barely slept that night. She lay awake on the couch, staring at the ceiling, her mind replaying everything over and over. No matter how she looked at it, there was no good outcome. If Logan refused to go through with the job, the people after him would kill her. But if he did it, he would be pulled back into the life he had tried so hard to escape. It wasn't fair. She hated the thought of him having to make that choice. She hated that, despite everything, a part of her still cared. She had spent months trying to forget him, trying to erase the pain of his betrayal. But now that she knew the truth, she realized something terrifying. She had never really let him go. And if she wasn't careful, she was going to lose him all over again. By morning, she had made her decision. When Logan walked into the living room, looking exhausted and resigned, she met his gaze head-on. "I'm going with you." His eyes darkened. "No, you're not." She crossed her arms. "I'm not letting you do this alone. It's too dangerous." "So is sitting here and waiting to die," she shot back. Logan ran a frustrated hand through his hair. "Elena." "No," she said firmly. "You don't get to push me away again. If you're going after Victor Crane, I'm going with you." Logan stared at her, his expression unreadable. Then, after a long pause, he sighed. "Fine." It wasn't an agreement. It was surrender. And Elena knew, in that moment, that the night air was thick with tension as Elena and Logan approached the abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. It was the meeting point, the place where everything would be decided. Elena's heart pounded as she followed Logan inside. The dim lighting cast long shadows on the walls, and every creak of the floorboards made her stomach tighten. Logan had insisted she stay out of sight, but she refused. This wasn't just his fight anymore, it was hers too. Adrian was already waiting inside, leaning casually against a metal table. He raised an eyebrow when he saw Elena. "Didn't take you for the ride-or-die type," he remarked. Elena ignored him. "Where is Victor Crane?" Logan asked, his voice cold. Adrian smirked. "Impatient, aren't we?" He gestured toward the far end of the warehouse. "He'll be here soon, but you might want to think about your options before he arrives." Logan narrowed his eyes. "I already know my options." "Do you?" Adrian stepped closer. "Because right now you've got two choices: kill Victor Crane and walk away free, or refuse and let him finish what he started." His gaze flickered to Elena. "And we both know who his first target will be." Elena clenched her fists. Logan didn't flinch. "There's always a third option." Adrian tilted his head. "Oh, enlighten me." Logan's jaw tightened. "We take him down. Together." Adrian let out a short laugh. "You think you can outmaneuver him? The man who's been running this game for years." Logan didn't answer. He just stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. "We make him think I'm playing along. Get close enough to end it on our terms." Adrian studied him for a long moment, then sighed. "Damn it, Logan. You really don't like doing things the easy way, do you?" Before Logan could respond, a door at the far end of the warehouse creaked open. Victor Crane stepped inside. The air seemed to grow colder. He was older now, his sharp gaze scanning the room as if he already knew every secret it held. Dressed in a dark suit, he carried himself like a man who had never once doubted his control over a situation. Logan tensed beside Elena. Crane's lips curled into a slow smile. "Logan, it's been a long time." Logan's expression remained unreadable. "Not long enough." Crane's eyes flickered to Elena. "And you must be the woman he thought he could protect." He'd scared. "You should have stayed out of this, my dear." Elena refused to look away. "So should you." Crane chuckled. "Feisty. I can see why he liked you." His gaze sharpened. "Shame it won't matter much longer." The room was deadly silent. Then, without warning, Logan moved. In the blink of an eye, he had a gun in his hand, aimed directly at Crane's chest. Crane didn't flinch. He simply smirked. "You won't do it." Logan's grip tightened. "Pull the trigger and you sign your own death warrant," Crane said smoothly. "But if you hand over the gun, I might let you live." Logan exhaled slowly. "You're wrong." And then, before Crane could react, a shot rang out. Crane's body jerked as the bullet hit its mark. For a moment, he just stood there, shock flickering across his face. Then, slowly, he crumpled to the floor. The silence that followed was deafening. Elena could barely breathe. Logan lowered the gun, his expression unreadable. "It's over." Adrian let out a low whistle. "Well, damn." Elena forced herself to move, to step closer to Logan. "Are you okay?" Logan turned to her, something raw and unguarded in his eyes. "I am now." For the first time in a long time, she believed him. The days that followed were a blur. Victor Crane's death sent ripples through the underworld, but Logan had planned ahead. He made sure no trace led back to them. Adrian disappeared soon after, muttering something about taking an extended vacation. And Elena, she finally let herself breathe again. One evening, as the sun set over the city, she stood on Logan's balcony, watching the sky fade into hues of orange and purple. Logan stepped beside her, quiet for a long moment. "Are you leaving?" he asked softly. She turned to him. "Do you want me to?" His gaze held hers.
No.
She took a slow breath. "I don't know if I can forget what happened, Logan. Or if I can ever go back to the way things were before." "I don't expect you to," he said quietly. "But I'd give anything for a second chance." She hesitated. Then, after a long moment, she reached for his hand. "Then don't waste it," she whispered. And for the first time since that fateful day at the altar, she felt like she was exactly where she was meant to be.